All right, everyone, there's been so much weird shit going on within politics recently that I didn't get a chance to get around to this story, actually. It's a couple days belated, but a former health minister in the Democratic Republic of Congo has been jailed on embezzlement charges. He was embezzling Ebola funding. And by the way, no shit, at the same time you get a story they're running out of Ebola funds, so I'm wondering exactly what proportion this was responsible for in that. So he was their health minister and was stealing money. Yeah, there's no tin horn style instability in the Congo at all. So he gets jailed, and then you're a few beds short in the Ebola ward. The problem is this: Ebola actually, the number of new cases has begun to decline. That's actually really good news. They're beginning to get a little bit of a containment going. That's great. The problem is it's still in a large enough urban setting at this point. It could become endemic. The big worry at this point might be that it slowly burns through the population for the next million years, basically. Like until the population density is actually solved for, it just remains endemic and a few cases are always active at any given time because of the constant exposure to low levels of Ebola that'll be there. It could happen. Hopefully they snuff it out entirely, but then, at any point you could have a mutation. That's a big problem. It could escape containment. A new case could crop up in an even bigger urban setting in Nairobi. It could hit, it could hit Cairo. It could hit Lagos or one of these huge mega cities in Africa and cause huge problems. I am way bigger than Butembo, way bigger than Beni or any of these other places it's already in. That could happen. It could crop up in a new town anywhere in the Congo. It's in a war zone, so an escalation of the civil war, the sectarian fighting that's going on there could cause temporary interruption of Ebola treatment and prevention. That could let it escape containment. That could happen at any time. You've still got dozens of active cases, or maybe hundreds at this point, in the country. The fact is that there's not a whole lot of domestic infrastructure available to fight that. The other problem is that it requires constant foreign intervention in these cases. Anytime Ebola comes up anywhere in Central or West Africa, the rest of the world has to immediately mobilize and get in place. But because the response is bureaucratic and expensive and riddled with diplomatic quarreling, it becomes almost impossible to mount a quick response. Then they have to keep downplaying things so people locally don't panic while they try to get their shit into place, and that means that the rest of the world is either complacent or ignorant that there's a problem in the first place and doesn't pony up the money. Because it takes a lot of money. If you're going to convince a doctor to spend an extended period, months, sitting in a jungle in sweltering heat in a hazmat suit with the ever-present possibility of getting mauled to death by a tropical animal, they could catch Ebola and die themselves or have to get evacuated and spend a month in recovery. When their body will be less healthy for potentially years to come. They could get killed. They could get taken hostage by some guerrilla warfare movement. If you're going to convince somebody that that's a good career move, you have to give them quite a bit of benefit for that. Now, it's not just, hey, on paper, it's good. On my resume, when I applied for this grant, it looked good because I was willing to risk my life for 3 months. That's not enough. Now you got to give them cold hard cash. When they get back, they're going to need some time off for the PTSD of having to see people shitting and pissing blood and blood trickling out of their eyes and their pores. Probably takes a while to get over the stink too, of constant dead bodies rotting around you. Imagine when the infection is just so bad your body's basically going into complete overall systemic sepsis and it's just rotting from the inside out. Like, bacteria have totally taken over. Gangrene sets in and you just sit there bloating. You go in there in the morning to check on the patients and one of them is just literally a heap of goo. That's pretty much what goes on. Ebola, the viral load becomes so large it starts destroying the blood vessels, if I recall correctly. Literally causes them capillaries to explode, among other things. I imagine the smell is quite severe in tropical, 90, 100 degree heat. I imagine it's pretty bad. But the world doesn't see us. 10 years ago we might have been able to show the world how bad it really was by putting footage on YouTube. Arguably, you couldn't even do that now. The World Health Organization official YouTube page, if they put up the wrong shit, they'll get banned too. Well, you'll upset the population. You'll upset civilians at their breakfast if you show them Ebola bloating and hemorrhage, gangrene, and weird shit like that. Please don't do that anymore, WHO. Keep people ignorant. It's what they want. They want a sanitized reality online that doesn't include any of the edgy and fun shit. Oh, fuck them. Fuck their censorship. Use LiveLeak. They don't care if you post the Ebola footage. Or BitChute at this point. LiveLeak had its chance. They refused to make their platform simple to use, and so, nobody knows they exist anymore. It's ironic that the health minister of the Congo was embezzling the Ebola money. It's not surprising, but it's ironic. It's not surprising because you've got one of these situations. Congo is not particularly politically stable. It never has been, but it's even less stable now. They've got this guerrilla warfare going on for years. How many years has their little, underbrush burn style civil war been going on between some of these factions that wander around out in the brush and ambush one another randomly? How long has it been going on? And then they attack Ebola wards and like, hey, this medical equipment's worth a lot of money. Man, that van will buy a whole lot of crates of machine gun ammo, so we better just go grab it. Whoops, it hasn't been cleaned out yet, but, it doesn't really matter. Then when all of those how many of these, by the way, because you're not going to get a death total on this, how many people have died out in the jungles of Ebola that you don't even know about? They're uncounted cases. Some group of dudes attacks the Ebola ward, raids it, gets the stuff, they sell it on the black market. By the way, those black market people, they probably die of it too. They go out into the brush, they contract Ebola, and they start dying like flies. They're not going to go to the medical center. They're not going to the medical center. They're not telling anyone. They wander around out in the jungle for months at a time. You're not going to know they died until you stumble across a bunch of grisly skeletons, which hopefully have been dead long enough to not be contagious anymore. Oh yeah, we found like 50 bodies out in the jungle, surrounded by their guns and stuff, still with the screams of horror on their face from when they had their last hemorrhage. Come on. The world needs to do more to respond in this case, and it's not being taken seriously enough. That's about all. Peace out.